Hi, good afternoon to all the delegates present here today. I am Bhavana Pradeep from Praras Biosciences, here presenting our new product, K-Lite Active. It's a pineapple-based multifunctional beverage of new age. So this project was funded by Northeast Center for Technology Application and REACH, Government of India. So this project was conducted under Government of India's funding. So to introduce our company, we are Praras Biosciences Private Limited. We incorporated in the year 2007. We are into manufacturing biochemicals for industries like distilleries, breweries and wineries. And our USP is mainly measurability, import substitution and environmentally friendly products. We have an FSSAI licensed manufacturing facility based in Bangalore, and we are global food certified. So, before I go to the main product, I would like to talk about the product from which we got the inspiration to develop. Okay, so you all must have heard about Kombucha. So in India, it is like the trend is now going on about Kombucha. In almost all the tier 1 cities, you can see Kombucha bottles in the supermarkets, right? So to brief about Kombucha, it's a fermented black or green tea drink. So it doesn't contain much of alcohol. The alcohol percentage is less than 0.5 percentage, but it is rich in organic acids, probiotics and also micronutrients. The fermentation here is slightly different from other alcoholic beverages. So here a unique culture is used. It's a symbiotic culture of yeast and bacteria, so which is also known as SCOBY. So here it contains, you can see in that picture, it's a cellulose pellicle which contains a cocktail of microorganism, basically yeast, lactic acid bacteria and acetic acid bacteria. Coming to yeast, it's mainly Saccharomyces cerevisiae and Zygosaccharomyces, and if you go to AABs, acetic acid bacteria, it's mainly Acetobacter and gluconoacetobacter that are present here. So what happens during the fermentation is the sugar is converted into alcohol by the yeast. Okay, then simultaneously bacteria will convert the alcohol into organic acid. So at the final product, the alcohol content becomes low and the acid content becomes higher. So what is our innovation here? We have taken the inspiration of kombucha fermentation, and we have used the same fermentation for different raw material. Here we are using pineapple processing byproduct like the core of pineapple, skin of pineapple. So we have used those byproducts to make juice, and we have used it as the primary raw material for fermentation. So why use these? It's basically upscaling, or we can say value addition to the product, and also the vitamins and micronutrients are mostly present in these peels and core of pineapple. You can use the same process for other fruits as well. We have made it for jackfruit tendrils also. So yeah, basically it is a kind of kombucha, but we are not using tea here. So that is the first innovation. The second one is No Trace Active. It is an anti-hangover beverage. We are using an anti-hangover product called A-Hango, which is a protein peptide complex with anti-hangover properties. So we are mixing it with the K-Lite active to make it an anti-hangover beverage. So if you want to compare the traditional kombucha and K-Lite active, it is similar to traditional kombucha as well. At the same time, it is slightly different in some of the aspects. It is similar in terms of the pH, titratable acidity, alcohol content and the mouthfeel. Okay? And if you compare the calorific value and sugar content, the K-Lite active has it has very less amount of sugar in the final products. So it is low calorie beverage. Can we move to the next slide? Yeah. So if we see the vitamin and mineral contents, the K-Lite active has more vitamins and minerals when compared to traditional kombucha. That's because the raw material that we are using for the fermentation. We have done the toxicology studies as well. So it is proven, clinically proven also, both the products, and we have FSSAI license also. So coming to no-trace active, as I said, we are using a protein peptide complex in the beverage. So the complex is named as A-Hango. This is a technology from CFTRI Mysore. So with that technology, we are using A-Hango for different deliverables, like it can be mixed with your masalas, your chutneys while consuming alcohol. So this is one of the ways you can consume A-Hango, that is no trace active. We have just incorporated A-Hango in K-Lite active. So this can be consumed before, during or after alcohol consumption to prevent hangover next day. So I'll just explain how it works, how no trace active works. So during the, like when you consume alcohol, the alcohol will be metabolized inside our body. So it is, yeah, you can go. So the alcohol is converted to acetaldehyde and then it is converted to acetate. Okay. So during continuous consumption of alcohol, the metabolism happens and the acetaldehyde level will increase inside the body. So accumulation of acetaldehyde is the main reason for the physical symptoms of hangover the next day. So when you consume no trace active, before or during the alcohol consumption, what it does is when acetaldehyde is produced in the body, alcohol is converted into acetaldehyde inside the body, it makes a complex, the no trace active makes a complex with acetaldehyde and it removes it or excretes from our bloodstream. So drinking this does not affect your, like whatever the experience you get while drinking. So you will get high, all that experience will be there, but the whatever happens next day, the nausea, it may be headache, you feel giddiness, so that symptoms, those symptoms are prevented here. So yeah, that's about our product, and we would like to acknowledge Nectar, Northeast Center for Technology Application and Reach, who funded this project, and we would also like to acknowledge our project partner. Some of the or part of the project was conducted in Northeast region, Assam, and our research partner is Prakoch Private Limited, who is into all the R&D activities, research and development in food and beverages. And The A-Hango technology is from CFTRI. Thank you. You can visit us at B210 for more details.
Thank you, Bhavana. And we just had the samples passed around in the room. There's also an anti-hangover one, which will come in useful, I'm sure, to several of us. Yeah. Our next panel is on the subject of investment, and I think this is a subject definitely of interest to several people. Are there anybody in the room who's looking for investment in an alcohol venture of some sort? Shalini, not you. Anybody else? How many people looking for investment? Vishal, come on. Yeah. And are you looking at it from the beverage space, the retail space, the F&B space? Beverage space? Yeah, yeah. Beverage? Beverage. And are there any investors in the room, apart from people who are on my panel? Yeah, okay. Yeah. I'd like to quickly introduce my panel and then call them up on stage. The first member of my panel is Mr. K. Ganesh. K. Ganesh is a serial entrepreneur and promoter. He's invested in many entities, including Big Basket, Portia Medical, Bluestone, Homelane, so on and so forth. Currently, the companies in which he's invested employ over 25,000 personnel and are valued at over $4.5 billion. He's also an investor in Goa Brewing Company. And coincidentally, I also bought my house from him 20 years ago. Welcome, Ganesh. I'd also now like to call up on stage Nitin Vishwas. Nitin, we've had him earlier in the day. He's the co-founder of Moonshine Meadery. And as he will tell you, mead is not beer. Nahi pehna is but take care. And finally, Nayan Nayanabram Konda, the CEO of Anthill Spirits, one of the very few specialized, shall I say, funds which are focused on investment in the alcohol space. Nayan also comes from rich experience by working with a consumer brand in the shape of Bira. He was looking after the Bira taproom venture, so he brings that experience to bear when it comes to the investor part, shall I say. Just to get the ball rolling, and unfortunately we don't have Ankur Bhatia with us. He's had a personal emergency, so he hasn't been able to travel. I'd like to start with Nitin. And Nitin, how long has it been since you began Moonshine? When did you start Moonshine?
Home brewing started in 2014.
In some other country?
In some other country, not in India.
Yeah.
We incorporated in 2016. Started to raise our friends and family around about
Okay,
end of 16.
So 2016 to now, it's been about 7 years for Moonshine Meadery, for Ronin. Could you just talk us through your funding journey, how it began, how it evolved over the years?
So I think very early we were told this is sort of an industry where growth isn't really going to be really fast. I think there's someone who rightly said, if you go to VCs right up front, you're taking rocket fuel. So unless you're building a rocket, you just need to be cognizant you're building a fast car. So you're going to burn yourself, you're going to burn the driver as well as the passengers with you. So at the moment, when you're just starting out, go slow. So we raised our friends and family in 2016 and 2017. Went on to picking up angel checks. So in 2018 and 19, both times we took angel checks of small values, cumulatively about $1 million. And then it was, COVID came, so that was not a nice time. So it was bridge rounds that kept us going. And then the actual check came from Anthill. That was a much larger check that came in at that point. Anthill, Rainmatter, and Oxano. So the three of them sort of came in, and that's when the first sort of VC checks really hit us.
Right. Thanks, Nayan. And I do remember in a conversation with you some time ago when we were doing a cover story for Brews&Spirits. And in my mind, that was a big awakening for me because I always thought money was money. But when I spoke to Nitin, I realized that the color of money is very different depending upon who's investing in the venture. And the investee also needs to be extremely careful about what the investor is in it for. So perhaps you could dwell a little bit on that, Nitin, and what your experiences have been with the investor community and what their expectations are and what that's kind of taught you as a venture.
So again, you get a mixed bag, right? You get folks who are looking for a quick investment. I think we were cognizant. For example, there was a large VC that literally locked me up physically in a room and said, accept the check. And I was very scared to do it because I'd heard, when big brands smaller brands have taken larger checks and really not grown that way, because we are an industry that is plagued with a lot of regulatory challenges along the way. So it's going to take a little longer. So those investors were expecting a much faster return. They also said, we'll give you a larger check, but in fact 3x of what we had asked for. But then you also need to grow 5x of what you've currently planned. And we said, we're not sure whether that kind of growth will come. For us, product market fit still hadn't fully happened. So at that time, it's better to take checks from people who are actually going to give you some more intrinsic. So for example, we have somebody like Sudhir Sitapati who is currently the CEO of Godrej Consumers, with whom we would get invaluable 1 hour every month in the office to give us marketing gyan. So we cherry picked the kind of investors we wanted at the initial stages. And I think now when you're taking VC checks, there is an expectation that comes with it. And then you have to be cognizant that the product market fit stage is done. Now there's about growth stage and what are you really investing on? So there the expectations are a lot higher, and then you got to sort of deliver as well.
Yeah, thanks Nitin. And I think what's been remarkable really as an observer in this space for the last, say, 20 odd years is the revolution we've seen in the last 5 years, purely from an entrepreneurial standpoint across the entire beverage ecosystem. In the last 5 years, we probably have maybe about 50 to 80 different ventures at least, if not more, across primarily, say, beer, spirits, RTD, Nolo, across different sectors. And some part of that definitely has been fueled by the friends and family round to come in at that particular stage. But I think what's also interesting is that individual investors who are very keen and passionate about the sector are now embarking upon investing and putting some wind beneath these wings. When I was speaking to Anand Virmani of Now Spirits about a year or so ago, he said, you must speak to this gentleman. He's been in the limelight all along, and I forget his name. I think his name is Kulpreet Singh from London. And he's the man who literally put Now Spirits where we are, because if he hadn't written the check at that particular point in time, maybe the entire gin revolution in India might not have happened. Yeah. And on that juncture, I'd like to turn to Ganesh, who is an investor in the Goa Brewing Company. Ganesh, what drew you to this sector in particular in Alcobev? Because it's something maybe out of your normal investing stream. So what drew you to Alcobev, and in particular, what drew you to Goa Brewing as an entity?
Yeah, so, no, I think depending on whether you want good news or bad news, you want to be bullish or bearish, I can talk both sides of it. Right? So typical, when we talk about venture investing or institutional investing, I think, like Nitin mentioned, there's a very clear-cut challenge or a business model of a venture investor, that when the venture investor invests money, he's willing to take very high amount of risk, but he's expecting disproportionate return. I mean, he used the analogy of rocket. I don't know how many people got that. It's really, they are putting rocket fuel into it, so they want the ship or the vehicle to go take off like a rocket, reach escape velocity and fly, which is very good for businesses that need that kind of very high risk capital, right? Because risk and reward are related. You can't, unless you take that kind of risk, you cannot get the reward that they want. Typically, you will see that in technology businesses. You will see that in businesses like mine, which I have, Big Basket or Bluestone or Portia Medical, and all of those, or Home Lane, all of those are high risk, building a brand, consume a lot of money in marketing. When they grow, they will grow exponentially. Now, unfortunately, the bad news is all of you know the alcohol and beverage industries. It's a nightmare for a venture capitalist or a startup entrepreneur. I have a lot of respect for people who have done ventures or startups or entrepreneurs in this particular industry. Whether you succeed or fail, if you have run this, then believe me, you can run any complex business in India. There cannot be anything that is more complex than this. Okay, right? I don't have to tell you, you know this. Firstly, you cannot market directly. Okay, there's a problem of you'll have to go through surrogate advertising. You sell CDs or you sell classes. Now, for me, as a investor and a technology entrepreneur, I've done 4 ventures of my own. I never understand. If I'm willing to advertise, I'm willing to do it. Why would they do? Why would I do all the way touch the nose like this roundabout way rather than touching direct? That is a challenge. 2, nowhere, no other product. You have so much of complexity, licensing statewide. Selling in India is not really selling in India. It's selling in each state. Each state with its own laws, with its own challenges, with its own problems. You have to win. Nitin talked about product market fit. Forget it. That's a jargon. Okay? Product market fit is fine. It is not product market fit. It is state fit, particular government fit. You have to battle all of those. You can't advertise directly. You have to go state by state. Can you imagine Bluestone or even in Big Basket we have to do state by state. Portia Medical we have to do state by state. But the laws don't change. The taxes don't change. The entry barriers don't change. Each one of it is a nightmare. Having said all of that stuff, it's a very endearing industry. Not from a venture capitalist point of view. Scale, potential exit is very challenging for a venture capitalist. That's why you don't see it. The good news for all of us is this was the status in US too. That in the 90s, it was more a friends, family, angel, very small stage funds. The biggest challenge, rocket doesn't take off because so many states are there. Each state you have to go step by step passionately. So that's a challenge. So you require patient capital. Venture capital funds have a specific time duration, 5 years, 6 years, 4, 5 plus 1 plus 1, 6 plus 1 plus 1. That time frame you can't do. But if I remove the constraint that I have to get returns in a time frame, it's a beautiful industry. The reason why Goa Brewing Company appealed to me is because 4 times when I went to Goa, I did not know Suraj, I did not know about Goa Brewing Company. The best beer I had was People's Lager beer. And every time I used to go, it never used to be available. Then I told my folks saying that find out what is this company that makes such a beer, but it's not available that easy. Okay, that's how I came to know. I think today's generation, younger generation increasingly, like the way you see with Mama Earth or Nykaa or direct to consumer brands, does not want standard bottled 50-year-old, 100-year-old legacy brands. They want variety, they want story, whether it's craft beer, whether it is story, they want variation. Right? That's what this generation wants. But with all the challenges, you have to be careful, but if you can overcome those challenges, you can build a very solid, sustainable business. The reason that attracted me, one, the product was superb. I like the entrepreneur. Because of all the challenges, I personally believe, and I may be wrong, that unless you have cracked distribution, unless you are from this industry, unless you understand all the nasty business of distribution of alcohol in India, you will not be able to succeed. So in him, with his industry experience, passionate founder, great product which I taste, believe me, I love my beer, okay, right? Great product, and the background of that, all of that attracted me. I think the best part for any family office, angel investor, seed stage investor is the upside is very, very high. It's an under-penetrated market. For example, if you take craft beer, whether it is 2%, 3% or 5%, whatever is the penetration, 90% is still left. The amount of under-penetration is huge. Whereas in many other sectors, the penetration levels are already so high, you and I cannot start a new business. But when you are entering a business where only 5% is penetrated, 95% headroom is there, that's very attractive. So in short, background of the founder, good product, understanding of distribution, and willingness to be extremely patient. I lost all my hair already. I don't have any more hair to lose. I can wait for another 10 years to get my return.
There are three of us on stage, Ganesh.
Yeah, that's the point. So it's very, very simple. If you can wait it out, money will come back. People have to drink. I mean, I've been drinking beer. I've been drinking scotch for all this while. Where will I go? I have to keep on drinking till I die. There is no other choice. But great business to be in. Very, very positive. You need to be able to have a very strong heart to be able to take this, gulp it down, and wait it out.
Thank you. And while on the lighter side, I mean, the three of us were bald, and Vishal earlier on was talking about his journey in the wine business. But आपके बाल तो सफेद हो गए ना? Um, but Ganesh, it still takes a leap of faith. I mean, the fact that you like beer and Suraj appealed to you as a founder story is a strong statement. Primarily, the investment story in India is being driven by, say, individuals like you, or maybe a little more qualified people who have some kind of strategic investment or interest in the sector. There are very few entities or angel funds of any nature which are investing in this sector, and which is why it's all the more interesting to have an entity like Anthill Spirits. Nayan, if you could tell us a little bit more about Anthill and what prompted the founders to enter this particular sector or line of business.
So thanks, Vikram. Thanks for having me here. Um, so first, I'll talk a little bit about what Anthill is. Anthill Ventures is an early stage VC investment firm where the focus has been consumer, media, urban tech, and health tech. And come 2021-22, when we saw a lot of action in white spirits, particularly in gin, where there were a lot of brands, a lot of successful brands coming in, and we came across Now Spirits, and we had our small role there in the deal with Diageo. Prasad, who is the founder CEO of the Anthill Ventures, he felt that there was a need for having a sectoral focus on alcobev, considering alcobev is also such a large space in India, and the amount of opportunity and the disruption that one was seeing either before or through COVID and after in the last 3 to 4 years, we felt that there was a huge opportunity here. I mean, it's a $50 billion industry, which is by no means a small space or small size of opportunity. At the same time, the demographics that India has just validate the fact that the innovation is just about to go on an exponential path, and there's going to be more and more brands, more and more variety, more and more newer categories emerging out. And as an early stage investor who looks at opportunities at a stage where these are pre-seed, typically founders would have founders/founders would have figured out a family and friends round, and they are now looking at their first institutional check. And that's when Anthill comes in. And we found some amazing brands to partner with, like Moonshine or Salute or Matinee Gin in the last couple of years. And then we felt that there was a need to not just invest but also act as a venture builder, particularly given all the reasons that Ganesh and Nitin would have talked about in terms of how complex this space is. Because while the opportunity is so large, the real task of executing in this space is even more tough, and it's even more challenging with the kind of regulatory landscape, with every state having its own challenges and opportunities. So Anthill Ventures and Anthill Spirits essentially is a venture builder model, and we're also in that path of self-discovery where we are trying to see what is the best model at which with which one could see the number of brands and the number of entrepreneurs that we can back. But I would also like to share here that what we found in the last few months of conversations with many founders, with many players in the ecosystem is founders with a compelling story and a strong USP for their consumers definitely have a fitting chance to succeed. No matter what the challenges are, because at the end of the day, the consumer story is only growing. India is the market where everybody is looking at. So that's our thesis, where we come in early, we back the founders, we see through the journey, we'd like to double down on our investments in the portfolio that we have, and see that we partner with everybody else in the space.
Cool. Thanks, Nayan. We were also doing some back of the envelope calculation when doing the Brews&Spirits cover story. And the estimate was that we might need about 150 to 200 crores of pre-Series A funding by startups over the next, say, 3 years. Yeah, Ganesh, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, Vikram, I mean, the numbers sound about right. But most importantly, okay, right, government does not see this as a startup sector, doesn't see this as a sector which creates employment. And government's relationship with this is very highly divided. On one hand, they obviously want to tax it at high rates because it's not good for health, like cigarette taxes. They want to tax it. Two, it is also revenue for them. So for many of them, it is the main revenue. So they love it on one hand. It hurts they're concerned about consumer health, but they want the money, they love it, they will tax it, and they will create barriers, all of that stuff, and don't see it as employment generation. People don't shout from the rooftop, make in India or make in Bharat, whatever you want to call it, okay, right? So do that. So somewhere, if the industry or the lobby can able to get to the government, right? Simple things like treat it as, if not priority sector, not like IT, but some sector at which there is some positivity around it, right? Either employment generation, two, export potential. I mean, now we have seen at one extreme, because the cost of production is the lowest in India, you can produce at scale, very affordable, and send it to Middle East or Africa or other places where price matters. Or at the higher end, as we have seen with single malt and many of this, it's a pride that on top of this.
Absolutely.
So somewhere the government has to come in and change its relationship and outlook onto this sector, then 200 crore, 2000 crore will come. See, it will come because upstream value creation is possible. The hesitation that comes out of angels or of even early stage institutional funds is that the upstream story is not very, very clear. And it's only all negativism, other than the fact that people love alcohol.
But I don't think we're going to win any bets on betting on the government and what their actions might be, Ganesh. So in the short term at least, where will this money come from? This 200 crores which the startup sector needs in pre-series A to lend more fuel and see what Sukhinder was speaking about earlier in the day. He'd like to see 1,000 distilleries perhaps come up distilling craft spirits in the country. Nayan,
Three Fs.
I just
friends,
want to...
Friends, family and fools.
Friends.
No, friends, family and fools. Okay, that's well.
Nayan, do you think traditional angel funds are skeptical or scared of this sector and are unwilling to dip their toes, or have there been any incidents which have affected or scarred them in the past?
No, actually, I think the trend has flipped. I would say that was true, say, 4 or 5 years ago. There have been, I mean, I was part of Bira before my venture, stint, and I was there for a long time. I've seen it from all the way from F&F to Series D and E. So I've seen how even back then there were believers, individuals, family funds who have come forward and put their bet on a brand like Bira. But you know what's more important here is, from the investor standpoint, it's really about the thesis with which they follow, right? There's a lot of people who are looking at this with a lot of caution, but I think a lot of individuals and family funds are coming forward. And I feel like a lot of people in this room and in the overall fraternity have a larger role here to play, in that the strategic partnerships will really help some of these craft brands and some of these newer companies and innovators and entrepreneurs to really see the light of the day. Because a lot of times what ends up happening is, particularly in a complex framework like liquor in India, it's more to do with how to navigate a particular situation, how to navigate a particular blip in your in your journey. And if someone strategic is sort of supporting them, it need not always be money. It could also be in terms of just the know-how, and that's what we are trying to build the thesis around too. I think the landscape is very encouraging. We see more and more people. In fact, people from Gujarat, Ahmedabad are coming forward to invest in liquor, which is something that you wouldn't have imagined. But it's definitely improving.
Thanks. And of course, there are other sources of funding now emerging, and Nitin has been on one of them. Nitin, you'd like to talk about your Shark Tank experience?
So it's a great place to get your branding out there. I don't know about the funding bit of it, but it did a damn good job of getting the word of mouth out. Because I think as an alcohol brand, we've got honey as a surrogate, right? Because we ferment honey and make alcohol. That's the surrogate, and that's the only form of ATL we ever had. We're talking to sidecars and Indian accents of the world to actually keep our honey and make cocktails out of it. But then we were looking for a little platform where we could actually put the brand out there in the national market. And performance marketing and social media is great. You cannot beat the power of television. So personally, I wouldn't ask you to go take money from Shark Tank. It's perhaps not the smartest move because you're looking for folks. Like for example, I'll tell you, when we are speaking to Antin, the first thing that Nayan's team told us is that you're in one too many markets. Why don't you just sort of pull back and just restrict yourself? Now, this is not something that you would hear from a VC. So this is the kind of advice you're looking for. We had Oxano saying, don't open any new market for the next 3 years. And we had Rain Matter saying, deep dive into the value stream of honey, start speaking to societies where you can actually start adding benefit. So you want investors who can partner in this journey because this is a longer story. It's not a 3-year, you're going to grow the brand, flip it. If you try and do that, you're going to burn so much of money that you will not be able to raise more capital. So when you look at Shark Tank, purely look at it from a great ATL experience, 15 minutes of national television frame. We actually calculated, I think it's 1.5 crore for a minute. So we got 15 minutes, so we got about 18 odd crores worth of marketing free of cost. And it did a damn good job with that.
Yeah. Thanks. Ganesh, we talked earlier a little bit when you talked about export. How important is the export potential of a product when you're evaluating a potential investee? Or are you saying that India is enough, Bharat is enough?
No, so the answer differs based on category, right? Most of the sectors, no, I'm not talking about alcohol, most of the sectors, the way investors look at it is that unless it is for services where there is a great arbitrage between US market and Indian market. Software services market for India would not be very attractive. For abroad it will be attractive because you earn in dollars, spend in rupees. So if you remove that, India by itself is a large market. So try to going outside in other sectors, non-alcohol sectors, not there. For example, when we are doing our education business, Studio Vista, we looked at we are teaching kids in the US, kids in India. We looked at New Zealand, right? Now New Zealand has got 2 million people and 6 million sheep. Now unless you are teaching the sheep, the total market size is 2 million of population. Out of this 200,000 kids, out of this 20,000 people will need tutoring. You will be reached to 2,000. I can get that if I stand on Silk Board Junction in Bangalore during peak traffic. I will get that kind of traffic. Okay, right? So therefore, that's not important. That's true for most of the same thing with Big Basket or Bluestone or Portia Medical. No need to go outside. Alcohol is a slightly different story because of the challenges I mentioned. The India is not one India. Every state is different. Scalability is different. So export is a great opportunity to be able to get value and overcome, leapfrog all these challenges that exist. Important thing there, like I alluded to earlier, either you play at the cost end of it because you leverage Indian cost, Indian this one, to offer the cheapest possible alcohol for the mass population in countries that value price, or go at the other end. Okay, right? Talk about Amrit, talk about top brands, talk about established users like that. I think it's a great potential to be able to do.
Okay. Nitin, you want to add something?
So the way I see it is exporting, so alcohol, very, very nuanced, like you said, the category. Because it is a little harder for us to push the brand to the discerning audience in India as well, just because the channel is so limited. Export, if you start wearing the lens of cash flows and pure marketing, Amrut could say that, we are killing it there, now we are giving it here. And people will pick it up. It's a great, use that as an export tool, use that as a cash flow tool, because you're getting money on LC, right? So when we've been talking multiple times, we're talking about export markets with our friends in Antil, so they're actually investors in us. The conversation is around how quickly can you get a return on your investment and use that information to amplify your noise in India, because finally your consumer base is predominantly sitting in India. But just being there, the fact that we sent 2 containers to Dubai just allows us to have a louder conversation with an audience here saying, we are getting accepted everywhere, now you drink us. So the way I would see it is we use this significantly as a tool just to drive marketing and get cash flows. And you can keep doing that and keep snowballing your brand in the country itself.
Thanks, Nitin. One last question before I open it up for questions to the audience, and this is for Nayan. Nayan, there was a comment which came up in my interviews while doing research that India could have had potentially 10 Sulas and 10 Biras as strong consumer brands in the alcobev space, but we, we have just one of each. And I think these are the two most prominent brands in this particular space. Do you see a time 3 to 5 years from now wherein this will change, this will transform, wherein we have these household names which help define the category in a sense?
Yes, I mean the short answer is yes, and the reason being, while investments or route to market, etc., are bottlenecks that we all talk about and we all deal with on a day-to-day basis, the 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 consumer on the other side is willing to explore, experiment, innovate, etc., and the channels are playing a large role in this by introducing more variety, by introducing better formats of engagements, whether it's on-prem or off-premise. And people are now, we've seen the gin, we have started to see the rum revolution. People are already talking about tequilas, right? I think even in beers, while Bira as a national player is what we talk about, or a Sula for that matter, I think we need to also zoom into regional, because there's ample craft action going on in very, very focused way in the regional spaces which are sizable enough. Right. Like for example, every state, Ganesh mentioned about New Zealand, right? I think India has like so many more countries in itself that, even when we talked to Moonshine in the beginning, my advice was that go deep as you can into one state and validate it there, and then, you can then scale it easier and faster. So I think regionally we are already starting to see such success stories. It's only a matter of time with the right support, whether it's strategic or investment or larger brands taking an much more active role in being able to give that kind of ROI or validation to smaller brands as well as the investors. I'm sure there should not be any reason why we wouldn't see such times.
Or the government, as Ganesh mentioned.
Government, I want to leave out of the conversation, honestly.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. It's been a riveting discussion and some great points which have come up. I'd now like to throw it open to questions from the audience. We have, gentleman in the front who has a spirits band up his sleeve.
Hi everyone, my name is Anmol. So my question is to Nayan. So I understood that when you look for a startup, you look for the story, the product, and the founder. But in terms of numbers, what do you look for? For example, what are the gross margins you look at? And what are the number of cases sold you look at, or the presence in different states?
I mean, the thesis with which we work for is we're not looking at what your gross margin, X brewery or X distillery is, or what kind of market span you have, etc. Because we come in very early stage, which is like literally pre-series A or seed to pre-series A. So at that stage, what is important is how strong is the founder/founders' belief in the concept, how unique is it, and how compelling is the USP for the consumer, more than the financial numbers. Because I'm sure with scale the numbers will start falling in place, unless you're really doing something like where you're shaving half of your gross margin just on discounting, which is anyway a bad start.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we have a lady at the back there. Could you get the mic over to her, please?
Very good evening, everyone. So I run a pub in Bangalore, and it's a very interesting question. I do not have any family background. I don't have friends, yes. Family, no. Fools, absolutely no. It's my money, but why I started it. My question is, first thing is we don't take pride in selling alcohol. It's a shame usually for us. If you talk about sojas,
We don't take pride in selling alcohol, she's saying. It's a shame to sell alcohol.
So when I talk my own parents that I'm going to set up a pub, and it was a big shock to them. But the way I have been traveling and I've seen how we are soju and sake or baju, we are selling it and they take it a pride for the nation, is their drink. We are not doing in India. That's a separate thing. But as a person, usually people don't take it. Second thing, when I'm setting a pub, if I have to look for investment, I don't have a brand, it's a first brand. So if I have to look for investment to expand my business, I don't have a futuristic thing because I'm right now pumping my money. Though I get the break even in 8 months, but if I have to go and ask for it for the expansion, what I'm supposed to look at? I don't have a bank balance or I don't have big people to support behind me. So what I'm supposed to look into that? What is my USP? It's a neighborhood pub. Anybody can come, you can set up anywhere. But to get and set up the things, what I'm supposed to do? I really want to know.
I guess that's a societal comment in a sense, not so much a question, but I think society's mores have also changed considerably over the last 20, 25 years, and it's become, I think alcohol is no longer a taboo word, shall I say. So I definitely am a little more optimistic than you. Could we have another kiss? Could we have this? Yeah.
Vikram, why don't you share your experience? You started alcohol from IIM Calcutta, from professional work jobs. At least, I know at least 25 years back, 30 years back, when did you
23 years.
23 years back, you started Taliho. At that time, the taboo was 100% there.
Yeah.
I never used to drink at home in front of my mother. Okay. I still don't do in front of my mother, but I drink at home. But how did you start, and how have you seen this challenge change over the last 23 years?
No, I think when we began, the reason we began Talliho.com in 1999 because there was no avenue for consumers to learn about where to go out for a drink, what cocktails to make, because alcohol was completely a taboo and a naysay. No mass media spoke about it in any form or shape, and that's taken a sea change. And just a small anecdote, I was interviewing a young girl about 21, 22 years, fresh out of IHM Bombay, and I asked her what her favorite spirit of choice was. And she said, American whiskey, I like drinking bourbon. I said, okay, interesting. How do you get into bourbon? And she said, my father introduced me to it. And I was said, wow, this shows me it could be anecdotal, it could be a one-off instance, but I think that, as Bob Dylan said, the times they are changing. Next question.
Yeah,
Yes. Over there could be Yash Vishal. Oh, sorry, there's a mic already here. Yeah.
Hi. I'm from a liquor family background. Okay. So I know the industry, how it has happened. Relating to the question which was previously asked. Couple of decades back, I'm talking about like before we had the IT come into Bangalore. So the liquor industry was not that very, what do you say, standardized in terms of supply chain and all here. So I personally has experienced when you go for a bank for your loan or something with regard to your working capital and anything, it was not entertained. It was not at all entertained, and we were in a list of the bank's list, like we are the taboo for the society kind of thing. Like they're not going to entertain investing in us. Now after KSBCL and things like that have come up here, things have certainly changed.
What is the question?
Yeah, my question is for Nayan. What do you think about investing in microbrewery?
Investing in
Microbreweries.
microbreweries
Yes.
in Bangalore.
Yes, like you support the founder who has got a great idea or something like that. Would you be interested in a concept called microbrewery?
I mean, generally, this is my personal take, not Anthil's. I think microbreweries, there's probably very little scope for any further innovation or distinction. So, unless there is a very scalable and highly profitable model in which one demonstrates and at least one or two proof of concepts, I would probably hesitate, but this is just my personal take. I mean, I may be completely off.
Sorry, I have a different point of view. So, one is brands per se, direct to consumer brands or alcohol brands. Microbrewery is a different business model, right? So you're talking about brand, but you're talking about retail, you're talking about food, you're talking about per square foot rental, all of that stuff. So it's a completely different model. Don't judge yourself by that particular model. Two, in general, what Nayan is saying is correct. The scalability that you will be able to open one, make a success, open 10, open 100, does not exist because of this. Therefore, perhaps a venture capitalist or even an early stage venture capitalist is a wrong kind of investor for you to go to. So go to people who believe in you, who believe in the idea, who like more retail format. People who rather invest in a retail, square foot, high street business with some defensibility. That's the profile of the investor. Not the typical tech VC, not early stage VC who do this one. But I think it's a great idea. Location is important. Who are the other people? Competition is important. What is the price point? What is the catchment area? What is the demographic given the Bangalore traffic in and around that? All of that has to be studied, which perhaps is not relevant for a craft beer brand, right? Where all the other factors.
Thank you, Ganesh. Yes, the lady at the back.
Yeah, good evening everyone. I'm Priyanka. So my question to the panel is, I would like to understand more about your outlook for mixers. There's a lot of action of late as far as cocktail mixers are concerned, cocktails and mixers. So what's your insight on that?
Yeah, and we had a transaction also with Swami's acquisition by Third Eye Distilling. Who'd like to take that? What's the action on mixers? You're referring to, say, tonic, ginger ale, non-alcoholic mixers?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
cocktail mixers.
Cocktail mixers?
Non-alcoholic, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
which mix
But
with alcohol,
as a
Ganesh?
accompaniment
Huh?
They mix with alcohol, don't worry.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we'll mix with alcohol. You're talking about a product which is non-alcoholic. I'm trying to stay away from government. Is that the?
No, it's not. It doesn't contain alcohol, but
Correct.
it's an accompaniment to alcohol.
Yeah, yeah, correct, correct. No, no. So I'll tell you in general. See, if you are the fact that you have today multiple platforms through which you can go direct to consumer, because this is not alcohol, therefore it's not that you can do it on Flipkart, Big Basket, Blinkit, Amazon, all of those, and reach consumers. If you have a great product and you have the marketing muscle, is a great positive for any new direct to consumer brands in the space to come. The negative side is the business large enough? How much will be the total sales of these mixtures nationally? How much of market share you will be able to capture? You will be able to address how much you will be able to convert and capture. Scalability of this particular alcohol mixture category that you will be able to reach in 3 years is a general question I would like you to ask. But it sidesteps many of the issues we talked about alcohol, so it's nice. And today, D2C platform availability makes it possible for people to come up with and launch innovative brands in the space. That's a generic answer for anything which is.
Thank you, Ganesh. Yes, nine something.
I'd like to add something. Figure out if you're in this space, I'm assuming you're in this space.
No, it's out of curiosity.
Okay. So in case you are, or if you know someone who is doing it, figure out who is the channel ambassador going to be, or whosoever you figure out, who's actually going to put the brand out and talk about it. Because usually what happens behind the bar is, the mixer is never the highlight. You know, the brand is never visible to the end consumer. It's going into the cocktail, right? So how are you going to create value for your brand is what you need to solve for. And that's going to, you know, essentially get everything else in place.
Thank you, Nayan. Vishal, could I request you to take the question offline because our time is up and we're running a little behind schedule. Thank you, everyone. A big round of applause for our panel. Yeah, thank you.
Can I request you to call Bhavana Pradeep on stage for her memento? She can take.
Is she here? Could I just request Bhavana Pradeep to come on stage to collect her memento? We now have a presentation by Krishna Rajiv on the impact of yeast fermentation on different industrial feedstock. That will be followed shortly by a presentation by Ms. Nita Kapoor on the economic impact and opportunities of the Indian alcohol industry. And that will be followed by our last panel discussion for the day, which covers the subjects of retail and experience. You need to be there for that. It's a star-studded panel again. Krishna, over to you. Yeah, it'll be great.